Firstly, good afternoon all, and thank you for coming and supporting such a fantastic cause. At the end of the day, innovation in healthcare or anything is actually really, really hard, and it takes the support of people like you here today, so thank you. To start off, a bit of background you were just given. I personally started work in this space after the traumatic birth of my second child, Ollie, who you can probably see on the floor down there. Do you want to wave to everyone, Ollie? Say hi. For me, as a mother who approached the hospital with pregnancy complications, the first thing that happened, I'm good at my props, was I was attached to the industry standard CTG. This was a problem for me as a mother, as I had these two huge bands tied around my waist. Not only were they extremely uncomfortable and restrictive, they were highly invasive to my desired birthing process. This same technology presents a problem for clinicians as well, as the information it provides, fetal heart rate and contraction frequency, is highly subjective and has now been shown to increase unnecessary interventions. We need to do better in obstetrics monitoring. So what we did, with the support of Sydney Local Health District, is we developed a non-invasive device that monitors pregnancy and labour progression, named Ollie. This device doesn't just rely on the same measures, it provides us new measures, new physiological signs. We look at maternal and fetal exertion, the quality of contractions, maternal and fetal movements and well-being, and how they actually correlate to the progression. At the end of the day, while we did a lot of work with the Sydney Local Health District and we took this out, we got funding to commercialise the technology. We were introduced to IDE as we actually won a prize with them as well. And I'll let George give a bit of background to what they do.
Thank you. As the slide says, we love working together to build better futures. And what that means to us is developing and creating new medical technologies that we, together with our partners, build businesses around, because that's how we can transform patient experience and actually get these technologies to a place where they actually do what they're supposed to do and take better care of patients and improve the health systems that we all live within.
So before we met IDE, I'd come out of a traumatic birth experience. I was trying to tell everyone about my idea and no one was listening because we've done everything. We give birth how many times every day? I think it's every couple of, 136 billion births per year? Million. Anyway, we do this often and it is something that we should know more about and we don't. So at the end of the day, the only way I could be heard was to actually do a PhD. And I did that with the University of Sydney, PhD in medicine, and the Sydney Local Health District and the fabulous team at RPA Women's and Babies. And it was with RPA that we started developing a technology and started collecting a lot of clinical data, not just about what could these sensors pick up, but where should we be attaching this technology and these sensors so it doesn't actually impact maternal comfort and clinical care. And it ended up being a lot of research and development in that space, and we came out with what you see at the bottom here, which works. We got data, it was fantastic, but at the end of the day, it isn't really a usable medical device that we can take out to the next level. We had an idea how we could do that, but really for us, it was just the tip of the iceberg.
So when we saw this device, what we saw was a lot of work still to do. At IDE, what we are is a group of designers and engineers and scientists that love getting these ideas to market. And what that means is understanding at first who all the stakeholders are that you're trying to satisfy with this device. And in our industry, and this includes everyone in the room, that's often a very complex stakeholder network that we really need to understand. Now, Sarah had a massive head start on most entrepreneurs and people that come to us, in that she had done hundreds and hundreds of customer discovery interviews. So that's a massive head start on where we needed to go. However, that still gets customer discovery in terms of patients, but there are clinicians that need to interact with this device, the doctors, nurses, and sometimes less obvious things like regulatory authorities, purchasing people, reimbursement authorities. All these parties and stakeholders need to be taken into account in the plan for how you get this device to market. And what we can see here is the very first ideas of what activities we needed to undertake in order to get across some of these stakeholder needs and transform them into user needs, and then activities to basically work out what we needed to do, what we needed to tackle first to accelerate the device's development and take away the main risks that we were trying to resolve. So when we do this, we basically work very much together with our partners. So this plan is not something IDE comes up by ourselves. This is a plan that we work together with partners. So all the collaborators are involved in producing a plan together.
Now, as you can imagine, this whole development was literally my baby. It started from my personal process. I invested years into developing where it was. So it was definitely something I had to learn fast to take on that external feedback. Prior to this, I'd worked with experts in this field. I'd worked with fabulous clinicians. I'd worked with obstetricians, midwives, hospital staff who I knew what they were talking about. So to be in a position where I was starting to have to partner with and talk to people that really had done nothing in the obstetric space, it took a lot of trust and building in order to be able to provide that and listen and start developing this a bit further. What that meant was we developed, at the time we engaged IDE, we were a team of 3. We had a midwife who I'd worked with at RPA who came along and became a clinical communications manager, and we had a machine learning expert who I'd known for decades. And slowly, as we built the relationship with IDE, we ended up having this circumference I'm showing you here, which is a fabulous team of engineers from multiple disciplines. I mean, mechatronic engineer is one stream. We have mechanical, electrical, software engineers, along with a number of designers, quality experts, who you just heard one up here talking, and that team together showed us that at the end of the day, you don't need to have an obstetrics background. Most of these haven't even had a child, let alone experienced a pregnancy and labour themselves. But the work it took to get there was we ended up running birthing classes.
They were very interesting birthing classes.
We ended up, so the relationship that develops in this is not just us taking a service, but we're also providing them an education in our why and our reasons to do this. Because at the end of the day, the people you work with to get a successful product out need to buy into your why. And my why is that no woman goes through what I did or worse. And every day, even Australia and New South Wales, most women go through what I did or worse.
So at IDE, we've been working in medical technologies for over 16 years. And that means working on automated machinery, surgical tools, respiratory products, diagnostics, lots and lots of drug delivery, radiology and radiotherapy, lots and lots of different industries in the medical field. But this was the first maternal product that we ever worked with. And it was also a highly, highly complex one that involved, as Sarah had already said, mechanical design, electronic design, software design. Lucky we were working with a mechatronics engineer to help us with that. But also adhesives, sensors, wireless technology, data collection and data processing. So lots and lots of complexity and lots of places where things could go wrong, which inevitably in what we do, things go wrong. And that is very much part of working with a group like us, is that what we need to understand in working together is that things go wrong, and at certain times, certain parties need to step up to actually be able to resolve those.
And if that complexity wasn't enough, we decided to throw another curveball. You heard in earlier presentations about the importance in terms of the commercial value, finding the funding and doing that. We had an opportunity to not just get valuable data to help our progress and help our fundraising and add value to the company and development, but also to find an opportunity in alternate industry. So we wanted the exact same product to be capable to be attached to horses. Now, I'm not sure if anyone's actually done some physics here, but there's a general issue in terms of if you're attaching to a maternal abdomen, you're attaching it here. You know, full gravity isn't really play at that. So we want that same device under a horse with that full gravity. Comes with a number of other complexities. I'm not sure if anyone's interacted with horses, Horses for trail riding and petting are very different to the thoroughbred horses where this massive market exists. A lot of thoroughbred horses are not really petting horses. They don't really get groomed, but they're very expensive mares and their foals are just as expensive. We had to go through a process of learning how to best hair remove on a horse. And I can tell you now I'm the best horse Brazilian artist in the world at the moment. We also had to work out then how to physically attach that device. And you see a fantastic image of there. We had quite an unruly horse, and I think you were present for this, George. I was literally holding it on one end because we couldn't get anyone else close to it and like reaching over to this huge mare and attaching on the base.
I was standing a good distance away.
It was a lot of trial and error in this process, and we had to experiment with adhesives. We had to work out Bluetooth communication distances and all sorts of things. And also study the psychology of a horse as they learn to actually physically kick things off at certain positions. But as I said with the birthing classes and teaching this team, I had a team of people who had never actually, a lot of them had never been around a horse before. So we had to go through horse behaviour. You know, how do you read their ears? What do you do with their tails? But all of this comes to help us develop it for women as well, which you'll hear in the future.
So we've done lots of crazy things, but it's the first time I've ever had to resource a horse trial. So this is one of the versions of many of our schedule of number of people that we sent down to the farm to basically fix these devices on horses and monitor them. And none of these people, apart from Sarah, had ever interacted with horses before. And then at a particular moment, Sarah actually came down with a particular illness and got flown back to Sydney and got some lovely treatment at RPA while she was here.
Wasn't good enough in Victoria. So.
And however, then we had to step up our resourcing to make the trial happen. So the main thing in terms of IDE here is that what we're really passionate about is getting things to market. And at this point in time in the project, we needed to get this data for the Baymatob to get to the next stage. And that is why we basically quickly and straight away turned our resources on to be able to make sure that we could collect that data and basically, as we're about to demonstrate in a moment, get to the next stage of the development, prove that that this device could actually work.
So what have we got now? Through all of this, we managed to develop the next version of the technology, which you'll see up there, me applying to one of the mothers, that not just gave us data on horses, but is about to be in the process of collecting data in a multi-site pilot study across hopefully 3 different districts on pregnant women and labouring women. What the horse data gave us to contribute to that, along with the data we collected through the PhD with Royal Prince Alfred Hospital, is it gave us the ability to differentiate between normal and abnormal presentations. And this is using the new physiological signs. So this is looking at the normal presentation of a contraction, say in real time, but it's also giving us the ability to identify if and when a woman or a mare is about to give birth. And we've done that with an accuracy of we can tell within 1 to 3 days whether birth is imminent, which is unprecedented in that space. In addition to this, we managed to differentiate an ability to pick out the maternal and fetal heart rates of the mare and foal in that process and track them as well as they proceed. Where are we at now? We've got that technology, the new version of the device. As I said, we're about to run the multi-site pilot study, and we're a step closer to be able to transform that patient experience to improve pregnancy and labour outcomes while also not impacting the mother as I was impacted during my own birthing experience. The aims of us in this process are to reduce the unnecessary interventions which are climbing with this subjective technology that I've conveniently thrown on the floor. Identify complications that need interventions earlier so they don't become a chaotic, traumatic, urgent experience, which in turn costs a lot more money for the system to be able to resource, as well as improving both outcomes and experience for mother, baby, as well as the clinicians who will be interacting with this technology and the patients.
So one thing that you probably heard me repeat a few times in my talk is that we're very, very focused, despite being a group of designers and engineers and scientists, on how we make a business out of anything that we do. And one of the things that we do is continually throughout a project, and we continue to do that with Baymatob, is always look at these three lenses in terms of, is there anyone out there that wants this product? Is it feasible? Can we do what they need, what they want? And is it viable? Can we build a business around it? And this is continually what we're asking again and again. And when we're at this stage of a project, part of that is there's a very important stakeholder that we need to always be satisfying, and that's whoever's funding this development. So that's investors, government, all sorts of financing sources. And then what we were able to do is try and design the steps and milestones and activities that we're doing around those funding milestones.
And that is exactly where we're at now. We're currently in a fundraising process to look for about $6 million to optimise this device and then take it to clinical trials within New South Wales. And it's something that in Australia is hard, and a lot of the innovators that are up here presenting to you will be hard, is that we're not very good at providing funding for medical technology. We're not very good at taking that risk. We're more interested in chemist products. And that's one thing that I've come up again time and time again, is there are a lot of investors out there that are interested if we put this on chemist shelves. And the reason we won't do that and we can't do that is at the end of the day, that's going to add to maternal anxiety. It's going to add to the issue on the resource strains in the hospital systems. So we're here today asking you to support these innovations, support them through the way that's actually going to improve outcomes, it's going to identify complications early, and it's going to actually help the system as a whole. We need everyone's buy-in to that.